Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. A hugely important set of Major 3 qualifiers games today, not just in terms of bracket seeding for the Major, but also in terms of the entire season to come for many of these teams. Scump give his thoughts on the OpTic situation with Pred and Sib, those rumours emerging, especially after the way their series went up against the Los Angeles Thieves. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Quickly to note, just wanted to say, if you see any supposed TacticalRab YouTube channel in the comments, reply with like send a direct message on Telegram or something. Like, it's a bot, okay? I can kind of stop these. Like when I see these, I try and hide the user from the channel. You're allowed to do that as a channel, but man, YouTube is just infested with these things nowadays. Like, you can't really stop all of them. Like, if you ban one, there'll be another one that comes along type thing. So yeah, just know that if it says text me on Telegram, like I know that a lot of channels have these nowadays, so like I'm sure you guys know, but just to make it very clear. So thanks to Trent for pointing this out, and I'll try and do my best to stop them, but I can only do so much, unfortunately. Good bit of entertainment today from Crimsix. He finally got permission, I guess, to do his CDL watch party, and as he says here, first one ever, I'll be able to tell you who wins, etc, etc. Crim's going rogue, and I will share a clip from Crim here in a second because I thought it was quite entertaining during the Subliners series up against the Toronto Ultra, which we are going to dive straight into right now. Of course, we saw what happened with Toronto versus OpTic, another Texas team, and that online we saw Dashy discuss it, and at Toronto looking rather good. Not just because they're online, but also because their teamwork right now is in a rather good spot. This Hicksy change, I mean, I don't know with Toronto, right? Whenever they make changes, they just kind of work. Like, Toronto have just been so good at this the last few years that they just seem to make it happen. To me, the key point is that CleanX is out of control right now. Hicksy has never done anything spectacular for this team, and I didn't really expect him to, but I was like, okay, if Hicksy comes in, drops a 0.9, and CleanX is still at a 0.9, then, you know, where's the slaying coming from in the SMGs? The slaying is coming from CleanX. Now Hicksy is there. Like, CleanX has been ridiculous in all the series he's played since Hicksy's come in. Can that be sustainable? I don't know, but that's what's winning them these series at the moment. Toronto won a pretty close game on hardpoint to go up 1-0, then they won the control. A ridiculous 1v2 here from Scrappy, actually. We're just going to go full screen, actually, for this one, just to explore. Gets the first sniper onto Preset, 1v1, Scrappy versus Hydra. Of course, Hydra not a rookie anymore, but still, you know, in terms of star players, it's pretty much where you go for each respective team. 1 versus 1. Hydra pretty good at 1v1s as well, historically as well. And yeah, Hydra's trying to play around the bomb. Scrappy puts himself in a good position, gets tagged down to 35 HP, goes for the chal, doesn't get it, and then reads this play quite nicely here from Hydra, and eventually wins the 1 versus 1 to close it out 6-3, and was given his thoughts, of course, to the camera, as I'm sure you guys can expect and tell at this point. That was a 2-0, and it was quickly a 3-0. New York had a good chance in the control. The reason why I thought this would be a Game 5 series is because Subliners are very good in respawn. I still think they are, but Toronto are just kind of different gravy at the moment, and I don't really understand if that's just because they've made this change, if that's just the online thing. Like, they were in a bit of a slump for a while, and now they're seriously back in business. And, you know, New York Search and Destroy has always been a little bit suspect. That's why I thought this one would go Ultra in 5, but it was Ultra in 3. So they've won a lot of maps in a row now, and, you know, probably should have invested in a different game because we know Skies and Hydra also like a fair bit of Valorant. Speaking of, you know, the Crim6 watch plan, I just wanted to mention this funny clip here from Crim where he discusses the Hydra contract situation with the supposed $500,000 that they gave him. Now, I don't exactly know if that contract was carried through to its conclusion, as in, like, did they actually end up giving them that deal, or was it just a rumor at the time? I don't know. Probably they didn't give him that full amount. I'm not exactly sure, but if they did, it gives you a good reason why some of these orgs like LAG are shutting down, given the amount of money that you could potentially waste on players.
That was gross.
Wait.
The crowd goes mild. The crowd goes mild.
500K, and you lose that.
Bro, he was literally frying.
Now that puts Hicksy 4-0 in the CDL, which actually is the second best ever from a rookie start. Now he's only 3-0 with Toronto. Well, he's 3-0 this season with Toronto, but last season, you guys may remember, he subbed in for, was it Bance he subbed in for, was unwell. They played Florida in a series. It was like the closest 3-0 of all time that Hicksy was part of. They beat them like 250, 249, 6-5, 3-2 or something like that in that series. It was ridiculous. I think it was like a Bacage hardpoint game 1 or something, if I remember correctly. But But Hicksy's he's now 4-0 in the CDL, which is quite impressive given the fact that he hasn't exactly done much from a statistical perspective. But what he has arguably done is enabled the team to take it to the next level. We know that Scrappy and, of course, Standy didn't maybe get on too well at some point because Scrappy got him dropped for Hicksy. I mean, even in the interview that Scrappy did after the first series they played against OpTic, they asked him, like, look, who made the call to get Hicksy in? And he was like, oh, well, it was a team decision, right? Obviously, he, you know, if you read between the lines there, like, he was a key part of that change, as expected, because he was members of the Challengers team with Hicksy before. But look at CleanX's numbers. Of course, the sample sizes here vary massively, but even over just those 3 series, like, CleanX has been ridiculous. Not just the impact guy, but now he's the slayer. He's the guy delivering on the SMG slaying department, and Hicksy can do whatever, and they're still winning series. I mean, look at these numbers. Kismet has a pretty hard time, but yeah, 1.2 for insight, but CleanX has been the absolute powerhouse here. Scrappy and Fennis are the most damage in the entire lobby. Not quite, actually. Hydra did by 13 points, despite going negative, but you know, if CleanX is dropping a 1.25, you're going to have a hard time even losing a series. So let's talk Los Angeles Thieves versus Seattle Surge. This was a big one, I thought, in the context of certainly Seattle Surge. Thieves, we know, even if they lost here, went 1-2, they'd probably be fine to qualify for the winners anyway. They'll go 2-3 or 3-2 or something and make it work regardless. For Seattle, this was bigger though, because they started this stage quite well. This was their first real test though, I think, in terms of the majority of the teams they've played so far, with some changes coming through. I felt like Surge, kind of, if they'd have won this series, they'd have put themselves in a very promising position going forwards, and they honestly had it by the scruff of their neck. They dominated game 1, like, the slaying again was ridiculous, but game 2, their search and destroy comes back to bite them. They lose another game 2 search and destroy, and you know, Sim obviously wasn't particularly happy, as you guys can tell here on screen, and you know, maybe other things going through his mind as well. So I'm sure they feel like, all right, game 2, whatever, it was 1-1, but there were a couple of good opportunities, game 3 and game 4 for Surge to close out the series. It didn't happen though, and game 4 especially, there were some moments. Thieves, we know online you can get at them, right? And especially given the slayers on Surge, they turned up today, right? The players that you need to turn up for Surge actually delivered, and Thieves got outslayed, but they still win. Now that's what Thieves do, right? Their teamwork is so good, they can get outslayed and win, but they won the Search, they won the Control, they won game 4 as well. The Control as well was one of these weird situations where, like, I mean, they just won an impressive offense here, right? But game 5 or round 5 Control, I'm sure Surge feel like they should have really been closing that one out. And it's the Los Angeles Thieves that win again. So they started off looking shaky against Vegas, right? Online in the first series they played, but since then they've beaten FaZe, now they've beaten Surge, a great result again, and Surge are pretty close. But Envoy, man, he's stirring the pot a little bit here, because he says LeBron couldn't handle the Warriors. We know, right, that clip, which is probably going to haunt Pred for some time to come, where he says he's basically LeBron on the Cavaliers, and you know, implying that he's the hard carry of the team and everyone else is holding him back type thing. Then you know, so basically I guess the players are now calling Pred LeBron because he kind of referred to himself as LeBron. So that's what Envoy's getting at here. And I do wonder what Pred thinks about this whole situation as well as it has progressed, especially, you know, he says, look, such a close series, man, but especially with what Scump has to say here about the rumors that, I mean, look, let's be honest here, if OpTic don't win champs, you would expect Pred to join. His contract is at an end. He wanted to go to OpTic before. They couldn't get him. They maybe briefly wanted Arcitys. They couldn't get that done. There's a question as to whether Arcitys could be the man they need in terms of like a viable flex option that also can in-game lead and be the leader and the veteran of this type of stuff. Maybe there's an option down the line for a Shotzzy, Pred, Arcitys, Dashy type team. I don't know. It's just an idea. But, you know, Scump is talking about this likely possibility at some point or another. The other guys don't really want to comment too much on it, but I think it's understandable that this might be happening, especially after a series like this, when Pred, I'm sure, again, is rather frustrated with some of the numbers that Accuracy might have been putting up on the map.
There's rumors around Simp and Pred.
Man, why is it all
Where are you going with that? Where are you going with that? Who does that?
So I thought what Scump said there in his immediate reaction was pretty entertaining, to be honest. But yeah, he's implying that there are rumours, and for good reason, around Simp and Pred and where they might potentially go and whether they'll stay on Surge. The thing is, right, Surge do the flip-flop thing. They look good in Major 1, they do terrible in Major 2, and all of a sudden they're looking alright again. But this is one of those series where if they'd have won, I'm sure they'd have felt down. We took down a team that made the grand finals of the Major. We're looking strong, we're back in business. But losing this series in the fashion they did, especially getting, well, outslaying their opposition by a significant significant proportion. Accuracy had a tough time, 0.75. There were some moments where this guy was like trying to jump out of the water and stuff and just move around the map, and it wasn't particularly good to watch at times. And, you know, obviously Pred's got 78. And the thing is, right, when Mack has 81, like, you just can't lose, right? You don't get too many series out of Mack like this, where he's going to go off, drop the most kills in the lobby, most damage in the lobby. You can't really lose those series, but they still lost that series. I'm sure that Pred and Simp are pretty frustrated. So is there an OpTic move down the line? I think it depends largely on what happens for the rest of this season. But it's a tricky spot for OpTic, right? Because Dashy and Shotzzy are mainstays. They're not going anywhere. Huke has been arguably their best player of the last couple of weeks. Of course, we'll see how that continues tomorrow and whether Ghosty is the right man to round out that team or not. Like, you know, you'd imagine a one-man change Pred for Huke. If Ghosty stays, isn't really going to be it necessarily. So, you know, you'd then think they need potentially another option to come into play in the flex role, and maybe that could be Sib as well. But then you find yourself in a team where, again, is there really any leadership there? Like, let's say I've got Pred, Sib, Dashy, and Shotzzy. It's like, you know, you've got to have some structure somewhere, and I'm not really sure that team has it. I think we saw that as well with the final series. I wanted to discuss it in the Mutineers series. We'll discuss the FaZe versus Vegas one tomorrow morning. But, you know, again, going into this series, Beans could have set the record, or at least tied the record with Hicksy for 4-0 in terms of, you know, well, start to a rookie season. Awakening was 9-0 since he came in on the Mutineers back in the Modern Warfare season originally. But this was one of those series where Boston, despite looking good game one, they won game one relatively comfortably, but they lost game two on a search and destroy, where Florida are always going to be decent enough. And this is finally the Florida team coming to play. And this was such an important series for this team to win because they were looking down and out. The top 8 seemed to be kind of certified, right? Because the top 8 teams right now in the standings going into the World Championship in a couple of months' time, like, yeah, they're certainly the big favourites. Mutineers, London, Los Angeles, Guerrillas, Vegas, all looking pretty slow to get through. This could be the start of their turnaround. We hoped and we thought this Mutineers team was an upgrade. Of course, Capsule against his former team in Boston wanted that revenge as well. He played phenomenal this series. Fellow was playing well also. So, you know, everything clicked for the Mutineers today, and they were good in pretty much all the game modes. They also did have the watch party buff here, right? So I actually thought that when they did this, I mentioned this a few days ago, I thought it was going to be like the players were going to be there or something, and they might have food and drink, which I guess they did. But still, pretty cool stuff to do these watch parties in person. I love to see the organizations doing some local activation like this, even if it's something small scale. It's still good. I'm sure everyone involved had a good time, especially because they won, which is always a good result at the end of the day. So they win 3-1 here, Florida Mutineers, in the end. I certainly wouldn't have said, if I'd have said Florida win, which I wouldn't have said anyway, I'd have certainly said 3-2. But a 3-1 was an impressive victory. And I do think that in part, this is what you're going to see a little bit with Boston, as in they're going to be a bit more up and down. They've got less structure than some other teams. Like, they basically just go rogue, right? I mean, they've got Awakening and Beans as their ARs. They've got Nero and Vivid as their SMGs. Like, it's incredible firepower, but at times they're going to get caught out. Teams that are well prepared to counter them, if one of or two of their Slayers don't go off, they're going to have a really hard time. So I think that's kind of what you might see with Boston, but massive series for Mutineers to win because this actually kickstarts a chance for them to still make something of the season. The overall numbers here, Beans, Vivid, Nero all had a relatively hard time. Nero especially. Awakening still has a 1.2, but it was Havoc who had a great series. Honestly, the entire team played well on the Mutineers side, but Capsule, to me, was the standout. 9k damage, most in the lobby, 77 kills. And that is going to do it for today. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.